9 out of 10 spouses agree that contact sensors are hideous eyesores. So we're going to make them disappear in today's edition of How to Please a Woman with Home Automation. No, we're not getting rid of them. We're just going to take this contact sensor and hide it in the door. Now, this is surprisingly easy to do. This is one of those situations where it's better to ask forgiveness than permission, because if your spouse is anything like mine, it's going to be a very hard sell based on my track record that it's a good idea for you to drill a massive hole in her door. Now, this project should only take you about 20 to 30 minutes, but I would recommend finding a time when your spouse is just out for the day, just in case something goes awry. Now, all you need for this are a drill, a vacuum, a chisel, and a hammer. Now, if you have a router or a multi-tool, those will make your job easier, but they're not required. Oh, of course, you're going to also need a contact sensor. Now, this sensor is being embedded in the door, so obviously the thinner, the better. I'm using the Zooz XS open-close sensor because look at this thing. It's like the thinnest thing I've ever seen. It's a Z-Wave 800 device that also works on Z-Wave long range, if you have that. Now, if you're looking for a Zigbee solution, this Sengled open-close sensor might be your best option. I have affiliate links for both of these below if you want to help support the channel, or you can just search for them on Google if you want to be a jerk and not support the channel. The best place to embed the sensor is on the top of the door. So unless you're inviting Minute Bowl over for dinner, nobody's ever going to see it. If you want to save your marriage in case you slip with the drill, I'd suggest putting a little protective barrier on each side of the door. By the way, this non-residue duct tape is the greatest stuff ever. Awesome hold, and it doesn't leave any marks. I use it all the time. The first step is to mark the location for the sensor. Be sure that the side of the sensor that activates with the magnet points up. Next, select a drill bit that is slightly wider than the width of the sensor. Mark the depth of the sensor on the bit with a piece of tape so you don't drill too far. If you happen to have a handheld router, this job might be a little easier, but a drill will do fine. Now we're going to drill out our slot for the sensor. Drill a hole at each end of your mark. Then as many holes as you can in between them. Be very careful to keep the drill bit straight up and down so you don't go through the side of the door. You'll have to vacuum every once in a while to get the wood shavings out of your hole. To cut out the rest of the wood between the holes you drilled, I used a combination of my multi-tool and just applying pressure with the side of the drill bit. It's not ideal, but it works. Keep cutting, drilling, and vacuuming until the sensor fits in the slot. These Zooz Z-Wave LR sensors are supposed to have a very long battery life, but you will need to replace them eventually. I learned the hard way that getting the sensor out is not particularly easy. So I'm taking some clear plastic and wrapping it around the sensor to create little tabs that I can pull the sensor out with ease. Now we can just slide this whole thing into the hole. See? In and out, no problemo. In order for the contact sensor to work, we also need to embed a magnet in the door frame above the sensor. The magnet that came with the sensor can be removed from its bulky plastic mount, or you can just buy these cheap Neodynium Magnets that are super tiny and just really easy to mount flush in the door frame. To find the location for the magnet, the best way is to shut the door and slide the magnet with a piece of tape between the sensor and the frame to the point where the sensor indicates that the contact sensor is shut. Then you can just secure it in place with the tape, open the door, and mark the location of the magnet. This method was much more successful than attempting to measure the correct location, which clearly didn't work out. We'll fix that in a minute. So now that we know the actual correct location for the magnet, we can break out our hammer and chisel and get to work. A Dremel tool would also do the job. To affix the magnet in our slot, I was hoping to just install a screw and have it stick to that, but because the door is metal, whenever I closed the door, it pulled the magnet out. Next, I tried super glue, which failed miserably, but a healthy application of Gorilla Glue did the job. The only downside is that Gorilla Glue takes a couple hours to cure, so make sure your spouse is gone long enough for that to cure. Now, hopefully you didn't make the same mistake I did when drilling your first hole, but a little bit of wood filler will correct any sins. We're planning to paint all this white anyways, and when we do, I'll paint over the magnet and it'll be completely invisible. The last step is to remove the old eyesore contact sensors from the door. And now we can automate the new one to our heart's content. All right, moment of truth. Let's see if it works. It went on. It turned on. That is awesome. That's a huge win for me because the sensor is completely invisible and nothing makes my wife happier than not being able to see any of my things. If you have ideas for how to hide sensors, be they contact or motion sensors throughout your house, I'd love to hear them. This is something I'm really interested in, so leave those in the comments below. Thanks for watching today, and we'll see you next time.